Hello and welcome. It's Monday, the 24th of March. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast here on ARIRANG TV. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. Meeting on the sidelines of an international nuclear summit in the Netherlands, President Park Geun-hye calls on her Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping to help Seoul put the stoppers on North Korea's nuclear program. North Korea fires dozens more short-range missiles into waters off its east coast over the weekend. It's believed the North fired the rockets in response to the ongoing joint South Korea-US military drills. Plus, Korea's first gold exchange market opens for trading. The exchange platform is in line with the government's efforts to cut down on tax evasion and the illegal trade of gold. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye discussed better cooperation on curbing North Korea's nuclear program and negotiations for a Seoul-Beijing free trade deal with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Sunday. The two leaders met ahead of this year's nuclear security summit in The Hague. For details, let's now connect live to our presidential office correspondent, Choi You-sun, who's travelling with the President. You-sun.
Hello, Mark. As widely expected, North Korea topped the agenda on Sunday. President Park stressed Pyongyang cannot achieve economic development while continuing with its nuclear weapons program. She then called for Seoul's stronger cooperation with Beijing and Washington to secure Pyongyang's commitment to give up its nuclear activities as a precondition to any form of talks. To that end, President Xi said China opposes North Korea as a nuclear weapon state and that Beijing is, in its own way, persuading its ally to fulfill its previous international denuclearization pledges. The Chinese leader then endorsed President Park's trust-building initiatives on the Korean peninsula and policies for a peaceful reunification. On the trade front, the Korean president said the two sides should try to finalize negotiations for a Korea-China FTA within a year, to which her Chinese counterpart agreed. Mark?
Yeah, You-sun. So before the bilateral summit, President Park held an interview with a Dutch broadcaster, I'm led to believe, and touched upon a sensitive topic. Tell us more about that.
Speaking to Dutch broadcaster NOS in Seoul last Wednesday, President Park suggested the international community launch a pilot project that aims to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. The South Korean president added a nuclear-free peninsula can be achieved if disarming North Korea is considered a starting point towards realizing a world without nuclear weapons. She then urged North Korea's traditional allies, China and Russia, to send a stronger message to the North that it won't have a future unless it gives up its nuclear arms. The president also expressed concerns about the possibility of Pyongyang's nuclear materials ending up in the hands of nuclear terrorists and ultimately prompting regional neighbors to compete in nuclear armament. The South Korean leader said a possible fire at the North's Yongbyon nuclear complex could lead to a bigger catastrophe to that of Chernobyl. Monday here in The Hague, President Park will seek ways to boost bilateral ties with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte and give an opening speech at the Nuclear Security Summit. Mark?
OK, You-sun, thanks very much for your report there. That was our presidential office correspondent, Choi You-sun, reporting from The Hague on President Park's summit with her Chinese counterpart and her vision of a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. Now, North Korea is continuing its assault on a damning report released last month by the US State Department on the human rights situation in the North. The state-run Nodong Shinmun newspaper on Sunday slammed the annual report that condemned the North for extreme human rights abuses, including extrajudicial killings, arbitrary detention and torture. The paper said the US was unjustly intervening in a sovereign state's internal affairs. Ever since the report came out on February 27th, North Korean mouthpieces have been speaking out against it, going so far as to call the US the biggest human rights abusing country. Now, the North Korean military had a very busy weekend, firing dozens of short-range rockets into waters off its east coast on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday's firings were the seventh of their kind in the space of just 1 month. Our Na Hyung-young has the details.
30 short-range rockets Saturday and another 16 on Sunday morning. North Korea continues to fire projectiles into the East Sea. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff says those launched on Sunday are believed to have been Soviet-era short-range Frog missiles. The firing took place from North Korea's eastern port city of Wonsan between 12:50 and 2:20 early Sunday morning. The rockets flew about 60 kilometers, the same distance as those launched on Saturday. Dating back to last week, the North has fired more than 70 short-range rockets into its eastern waters. Sunday's firing is the 7th time Pyongyang has launched short-range missiles in the past month, an unusually high number, experts say. North Korea claims the launches are part of routine exercises, but military analysts in Seoul believe they are Pyongyang's way of acting out against the ongoing annual joint military drills between Seoul and Washington, which the North denounces as being practice for an invasion. An editorial in North Korea's daily Rodong Sinmun on Sunday says the reason the Korean peninsula has not broken out in war is because of Pyongyang's patience. It added that the only reason the regime has nuclear weapons is to put an end to Washington's persistent threats. Meanwhile, a recent U.S. military report says North Korea spent somewhere between $6 and $10 billion on military expenses in 2010. That's roughly 17 to 23% of the nation's total GDP, placing it atop the list, followed by Saudi Arabia. 나현경, ARIRANG News.
The Korean government has expressed regret over remarks made by a top Japanese government official in which he suggested possibly replacing Japan's landmark apology issued to the victims of its wartime sexual enslavement. Korea's foreign ministry said Sunday that it takes note of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's recent remarks on upholding the Kono Statement issued in 1993 and urged the Japanese government to reaffirm its stance. Earlier Sunday, one of Abe's special advisors, Koichi Hakiuda, said a new statement should be drafted if new facts come to light. Now, the United States is increasingly becoming the next battlefield for the political and historical war of words between Korea and Japan. This according to the New York Times. In an editorial published over the weekend, the paper says Seoul and Tokyo share one common goal. That is, coaxing Washington into pressuring the other country to make concessions on issues ranging from Japan's wartime use of sex slaves to the dual naming of the East Sea of Japan. It goes on to say the US government can claim some success in getting the leaders of Korea and Japan to agree to hold a trilateral summit this week on the sidelines of the Nuclear Security Summit in The Hague. Experts widely expect the campaigning from both sides to intensify ahead of President Obama's visit to both countries next month. President Park Geun-hye arrives at this week's Nuclear Security Summit in The Hague without a key piece of legislation in tow. The president was hoping the National Assembly would pass a long-stalled bill on nuclear safety and security before she left, but the rival parties had her leaving for the Netherlands empty-handed. The bill is the first step in Korea's ratification of 2 international treaties on nuclear security. Back in 2012, the last Nuclear Security Summit, which was hosted by Seoul, Korea promised to ratify the 2 treaties before this Hague summit. Both main political parties are blaming each other for the hold-up. The main opposition Democratic Party says the ruling Saenuri Party should have pushed for the passage of the bill earlier. The ruling party says the DP is using it to negotiate for the passage of a separate piece of legislation.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. Korea's first ever gold exchange market has opened for trading on this Monday morning. The Korea Exchange says 1 gram units of gold bullion will be bought and sold in the market. Private investors or individuals that own gold can make transactions through registered securities firms or futures trading companies. This in line with the government's efforts to prevent tax evasion and the illegal trade of gold. Individuals in Korea own an estimated 700 tons of gold. That's 7 times the amount held by the country's central bank. Nearly 70 tons is thought to be traded each year without being subject to any tax. In order to help the exchange platform take root, transaction fees will be waived for 1 year. The market will be open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. weekdays, with market prices shown on a real-time basis. Now, the Korean government has decided to overhaul regulations in 5 promising service sectors, as well as regulations that are controlled by more than one ministry, as part of its efforts to boost corporate investment, but also to create more jobs. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
This is Yeosu Industrial Complex, the driving force of Korea's petrochemical industry. Completed in 1979, the complex has continuously undergone expansion, but the factory site is still far from enough. The government planned to remove a ban on development of a greenbelt area inside the complex last year, but this was put off as it would have required the payment of over $55 million in development charges. This is a result of a regulation that is under the control of more than one government ministry. When it comes to industrial location, the Land Ministry, Trade Ministry, and Environment Ministry all have a role, such as operations or environment management. In response to this issue, the government has decided to overhaul such regulations, which experts point out hamper new business projects that could revitalize the economy.
As for issues that require cooperation between a number of ministries, we will allocate their roles and set a deadline.
The government will also revamp regulations related to labor and environment, as well as regulations on 5 promising service sectors, such as health, education, and tourism, in order to spur corporate investment and create more jobs. An official from the Ministry of Strategy and Finance said they have set their first task to ease regulations in such sectors and get rid of regulations controlled by more than one ministry. Financial authorities are also taking follow-up measures to ease regulations. It will review the adoption of Britain's control system that automatically eliminates existing regulations when new ones are introduced to ensure there's no extra cost to the public and businesses. As of last year, some 11,000 out of over 15,000 registered regulations were related to the economy. The government has pledged to cut the volume of registered regulations to 80% of the current level by 2016. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
The Korean wave has once again washed up on the shores of China, this time among younger consumers who have fallen for the charms of Korean actors and actresses. Not wanting to miss an opportunity, the world's leading luxury brands are latching on to the trend to boost their sales. Paul Lee reports.
This report, posted on the Wall Street Journal's website, reads, "Luxury brands look to South Korea for China's sales boost." It focuses on how the world's leading luxury brands are using Korean dramas and K-pop videos to reach Chinese customers. The Wall Street Journal found that Korean dramas influence a considerable amount of Chinese consumers, and that brands like Chanel, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton are using product placement in Korean TV dramas and music videos to broaden their appeal, especially to young shoppers. Take the drama My Love from the Star as an example. The dresses and shoes worn by Korean actress Chun Ji-hyun in the program are all the rage in China. The report also says that a backpack worn by actor Kim Soo-hyun in one episode helped boost sales of the brand's entire line by 3-fold in February compared to the same month last year. Despite some of the challenges overseas brands face in the Korean market, the report says these high-end companies choose to stay because of the nation's influence not just in China, but throughout the rest of Asia as well. Paul Yi, ARIRANG News.
Now, engineering students at Seoul National University are lending a helping hand to small and medium-sized enterprises that are facing some technical challenges. A consulting centre staffed by the university's best team of engineers has opened its doors to provide customised technical consulting services. Our Son Jung-in tells us why.
Inside this laboratory at the College of Engineering at Seoul National University, research students are busy working on a better design for semiconductors. They're visited by the CEO of a mid-sized manufacturing company who's asking for advice.
I came here to get some help from the university researchers who are developing the latest technologies related to our products.
After some discussion, the CEO comes to the conclusion that the technology the team is working on could be of actual help to his company.
When SMEs are designing new products, we can pass on our design techniques or share our ideas to help them optimize their resources.
The team of engineers is ready to help the SMEs resolve the technical challenges they face and provides customized services to help them get there so the SMEs can strengthen their foundation and boost their competitiveness in overseas markets.
We provide technical consultation as well as training courses that specialize in the areas they need.
Now that the Engineering Consulting Center has gotten off the ground, the university plans to have other departments launch similar programs for businesses in the future. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
Now for a look at some of the international news headlines we're covering at this hour, we're going to connect to our very own Eunice Kim, who's standing by at our news centre. Good morning to you, Eunice. Now, we're in week 3 of the search for the missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, and new satellite data is leading to a wider search area in the southern Indian Ocean.
That's right, Mark. Search teams handling the southern corridor, that's the seas west of Australia, have widened their target region in the southern Indian Ocean to include waters in which French authorities say they found potential floating debris, citing some satellite data there. The region in question is reported to be some 850 kilometers north of the current search area that is consistent with radar echoes that had been spotted by Australian and Chinese satellite data earlier. And Reuters reporting a team of 10 planes, including those from China and Japan, will join the Australia-led search efforts over the 68,000 square kilometer oceanic zone today. Teams will work in temperate weather conditions to also watch for a wooden pallet that was spotted on Saturday by air crews, which may or may not be from the missing jetliner. And keeping an eye on developments in Ukraine, one of NATO's top commanders is warning of Russian forces gathering on the border with eastern Ukraine, and he says they may be poised to invade. NATO's Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, General Philip Breedlove, says the mass of Russian military force is, quote, very, very sizable and very, very ready, and could even pose a threat to Moldova on the other side of the country. Ukraine's foreign minister has also warned that the threat of war with Moscow is escalating. However, Russia says it has complied with international agreements that limit the number of troops in the border areas. Meanwhile, international monitors from the European Security Organization are set to arrive in Ukraine soon, but they will not go into Crimea. Turkey shot down a Syrian plane on Sunday. Turkey's armed forces say it detected 2 Syrian fighter jets closing in on its border and issued 4 warnings before its F-16 fired a rocket that took down one of the Syrian jets. Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan issued a strongly worded warning saying that a violation of his airspace will be followed by a hard slap. Syria called the act, quote, blatant aggression, and explained the MiG-23s were pursuing rebel fighters inside Syria and had remained on the Syrian side of the Kasab border crossing. The pilot reportedly got away by ejecting out of the plane before it crashed. A huge landslide over the weekend in Washington state, USA, has killed at least 4 and left some 18 still missing. Authorities say the mudflow that leveled at least half a dozen homes along a state highway was possibly triggered by unsteady ground soaked with heavy rainfall over the past month. Rescuers conducted operations carefully as the area was still assessed to be unstable. State troopers are also watching the Mish River, which has been blocked by the landslide. The county has strongly recommended voluntary evacuations in the area north of the river.
In
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off down under, where the LA Dodgers swept the two-game series against the Arizona Diamondbacks to start off their season. And for Lee Hyun-jin, it was win number 1 of the 2014 season on Sunday. After getting some early run support, Lee Hyun-jin looked very comfortable on the mound, combining his slider and changeup to fool the Diamondbacks lineup as he pitches 5 innings of no-run ball, giving up just 2 hits while striking out 5. And it wasn't just his pitching. Babe Ruth singled in his first at-bat and scored later on as Lee Hyun-jin earned his first win of the season after the Dodgers bullpen barely hangs on to win this game 7-5. And while the Dodgers had their season opener over the weekend, rhythmic gymnast Son Hyun-jae had her first World Cup event this weekend in Stuttgart, Germany. The 20-year-old gymnast, who finished 7th overall in the individual event after scoring 68.915 points overall, came back on Sunday, claiming a silver medal in ribbon after scoring 17.900 points. She also scored 17.900 in hoops, which was good for 5th place overall, and 15.750 in the ball event, good for 8th overall. Meanwhile, she's set to compete in the next World Cup event in Portugal next month. And now shifting over to Game 2 of the best-of-3 series in the men's V-League playoffs between the Hyundai Capital Skywalkers and the Korean Air Jumbos, with Skywalkers 1 win away from heading to the championship. And rather tight matchup right from the get-go as Hyundai Capital claims the first set with a 25-22 win before Korean Air answers back with a 27-25 second set win. And despite Michael Sanchez putting up 37 points on the day, the Skywalkers combined both the offense and the defense, as their blocking game was the difference in the game as they take the next 2 sets, taking this match 3-1 and advancing to the championships for the first time in 4 years. And moving over to Game 1 of the semifinals between the Seoul SK Knights and the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus in the KBL. Now Mobis off to a great start, take a slim 18-12 lead before exploding in the second quarter as they take a 43-26 lead going into halftime. And while Aaron Haynes scored game-high 26 points and 7 rebounds, he's the only SK Knight who scored double digits, while Mobis had 5 different players scoring double digits in the game. And that was the difference maker as Ulsan takes Game 1 71-62. And finishing things off with some Sunday's K-League Classic action as the Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors and Sangju Sangmu drew 0-0 with Busan I-Park beating FC Seoul 1-0. Meanwhile, let's take a look at Ulsan Hyundai Tigers take on Incheon United. And what do you know, it doesn't take long for the first goal of the match with Ulsan on the corner kick. The ball just keeps bouncing around until Kim Shi-nook heads this one into the net, and it's 1-0 Ulsan after 4 minutes. 19th minute just off a goal kick here. Han Sang-won volleys this straight into the net. A brilliant goal makes it 2-0 Ulsan. 20th minute, Choi Jong-hwan takes down Rafinha, and what do you know, that's a red card. Incheon down a man, and in the 58th, it's that same Rafinha just outside the box, sneaks one past the goalkeeper, 3-0, and that's your final score, 3-0. Ulsan takes this match. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Breezy and mostly to partly sunny days in store to kick off the new week. And right now it's looking fairly clear outside, but clouds will move into the country as the day goes on. And yes, we had a chilly start to the morning, but temperatures will rebound into the upper teens to around 20 degrees Celsius across the region. So spring is definitely in the air, but also notice the big temperature gap between day and night and dress accordingly to avoid getting sick. Also, it might be a good idea to carry extra extra cardigan with you to keep yourself warm. Now, it looks like temperature is on the rise. It will get milder each day, so we can expect to have fine weather in coming days. Highs will be reaching a scorching 20s by the end of the week here in the capital. So do keep that in mind, and here are the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul will rise to 16, and Daegu and Gwangju should top out at 22 and 19 respectively, while Busan get up to 18. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like down on Jeju and Daejeon will both get up to 18, while the top temperature on Mount Kumgang will be at 12. Well, that's all for now, and back to you, Mark, in the studio.
Thank you very much, Gianna. And that's all for now. We'll be back at noon Korea time. In the meantime, you can always catch up with what's been happening on our website, arirang.co.kr/news.